Good question. If you want to teach a horse to rear on command, first you need to make sure that horse does not already have a habit of rearing, because that can make a bad habit even worse, which definitely ends up being dangerous. When teaching your horse to rear on command, you need to make sure your command is very distinct and cannot be mistaken for any other commands you use while riding, whether it be a command to go, a command to stop, a command to turn, side passes, dressage moves, any of those. It needs to be very, very distinct from any other command, or else he will possibly mistaken another command for the command to rear. So I'm guessing this isn't what you want to hear, but because your horse seems to have a bad habit of already laying down, it really would not be smart to teach him to lay down on command at this time until you get it to stop that bad habit, because it could make it probably a lot more dangerous and cause your horse to decide to lay down a lot more. Sorry. After getting Phoenix back into shape, I learned a lot about that subject. First off, I started working on the round pen, through all of the transitions and all the different gaits, making sure to do lots of trotting just because it is so good for conditioning. I worked her on the line and under the saddle, every once in a while taking her into the arena and working her on the rail, continuously working her through the gaits and transitions. I would say you need to make sure your horse sweats, but do not overdo it. You don't want your horse foaming. A little sweat is definitely good though, and it's definitely important to make sure your horse doesn't drop any weight through this process. I would recommend getting them onto a good grain diet. I mean, continue with the hay, but add some grain in there just to make sure they don't drop weight. There's something called Weight Builder, which is supposed to help with putting on weight that then turns into muscle as you work the horse. Because of it's so pricey, I would recommend using just rice bran. It worked amazing. It just helps give them the extra calories they need, because you need to make sure their calorie input matches their calorie output, so once again they don't drop weight. Because your horse is 30 years old, I would maybe recommend putting him on a joint supplement. Maybe MSM. I mean, that one seems to work amazing. On older horses, like my old horse Apache, I used glucosamine. Costly, but definitely worth it. Definitely make sure your horse's teeth are done, his hooves are done, and that's about it. Good luck! A bonus note on that would also be make sure you definitely cool your horse out very thoroughly, because that's just really important. So, ponies, they definitely always seem to be mischievous. So first off, the one with the weird canter, I would definitely recommend a lot of work on the lunge line, because it helps them extend and collect. Maybe have someone, if you're riding them, make sure you check the leads, because sometimes if a horse is off on the wrong lead, it can lead to their canter feeling really jerky and uncomfortable. Or worst case scenario, you could always check and see if there's an injury. A past injury can definitely affect a horse's canter. On the second one, the rude one, I'm going to check right here because it says some examples of the rude pony. He always bites when you're facing him, and he always walks around when you're doing his girth and getting on him. So if he bites when you're facing him, I would definitely recommend a lot of firm and consistent handling. That can probably be corrected by walking them on a halter a lot, and when he bites, take the end of the lead rope and just yank a couple of times, so it puts pressure right here on his nose, and it's not very comfortable, but it definitely helps them learn that if you don't bite people, that's not okay. It's not okay to be aggressive. And if that doesn't work, maybe possibly put a chain over his nose and use the same thing. Make sure you're not too rough though, because you don't want to hurt him. You just want him to be like, hey, this is not okay. And on the chain, it needs to be a very smooth, mild chain. Don't hurt the poor pony. I know you wouldn't, but just saying. If he walks around when you're doing his girth and getting on him, try putting him in a cross tie, and while you're doing the girth, every time he moves, take a step back and just wait for him to stand still. And consistently do this every day until he stops moving. If he moves when you get on and off, I actually have this problem with Phoenix. What you need to do is you need to take him in the arena and make him stand. every time you go to get on, if he moves, just take the reins in your hands and just jerk a couple times. Not too rough though. And then when he finally stands still, get on one side, sit, pet him for a minute, and then get off on the other. And keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, each time making sure he stands still. Once again, if he moves, just lightly tug on the reins from the ground to tell him you don't move. Do this every single day, every time he moves while you're getting on. Don't let him get away with it because it's just going to make the habit worse. Hope that helped. So first off, it might be a good idea to make sure your horse doesn't have any problems with his feet or something, because that could be a reason it doesn't want to lope. If that's not the case and it's just truly laziness, I worked with a horse named Spinner a while back. That horse was very, very lazy. And what I would recommend is really working on gaits and transitions. If you do it on the lunge line, be very strict and make him lope until you tell him to stop. Use a whip, never hit the horse with the whip, just snap it right behind him until he gets the message that, hey, I need to lope and I need to do what I'm told. When you do it under the saddle, I'd recommend taking a lot of time and just working on the rail and pushing him through his gaits and transitions. Your horse should not stop a gait until you tell them that it's okay to stop. They should continue at that gait until you say so. I would recommend taking a dressage whip preferably, but a riding crop works too, and keeping it on the outside shoulder. Every time you cue him, use vocal and or body, like the heel tap and everything. I wouldn't recommend using spurs with this method. Keep the crop on the outside shoulder. Every time you cue him, count to 2. So it's a cue, 1, 2, smack. Nice firm smack on the shoulder. You don't want to hurt them or anything, but you want them to really know. So don't be light, just right on the shoulder, and they'll get the message. And then continue to do that. If they don't go after the smack, it's cue, 1, 2, smack. Cue, 1, 2, smack, until they pick up the gait you ask them to pick up. Once they pick up that gait, they should continue that gait until you tell them to stop. So when you feel them slow down, cue them, 1, 2, smack. Make sure you have a different cue for every single gait. That's kind of helpful, like when you want to walk, when you want them to trot, same one as walking normally. When you want them to lope, like kiss to them. I can't do it right now because my mouth's dry, but and remember to be very, very firm and consistent. Work on that just every day for a couple weeks if that's what it takes. And you want to get it to where you don't have to use that crop anymore. But remember that if you're riding without the crop and they're not picking up the gait you tell them to and staying in that gait, feel free to keep that crop on the side of the fence so you can go get it when you need it. That way they know they're not going to get away with anything. Well, guys, that was our final question, so thank you so much for watching this video, and I really hope it helps you guys. Whether that was your question or not, I really hope you can take something from this video and learn, and thank you so much for asking me questions and giving me a chance to help you out. Thanks!